Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. This is Rayesa Gheewala, your host for this 5-day challenge of how to successfully share your kids with your ex. So we are on day 4. We've actually completed 3 days and talked about many different topics of how you can help yourself actually in getting to a place in your mind and in your heart to think about this man that maybe you don't want anything to do with. There's been a lot of hurt, history, pain in the relationship, marital relationship that's closing. And now you have to think of him as your, as some type of a partnership in terms of raising kids, in terms of a connection that you're always going to have with your children, through your children. So day 4 today is all about communication. And we're talking about communication directly with dad. And being a mature, responsible parent, it's the responsibility of the parent to communicate with each other, right? When you're talking about scheduling, logistics, health, plans for the children, schooling, any of that stuff, right? We never, ever, ever want to use our children as messengers. Oh, well, tell your dad that he needs to pick you up at this time. Well, he may have questions. And also, when we're talking to our children, they can sense our energy and how we're really feeling from our tonality. And from our energy. So if there's any animosity behind that, they're gonna be able to feel it, and then they're gonna feel conflicted, stuck in the middle, and that's not fair to do as a mature, responsible adult. It's on us to convey the message ourselves, to interact with the parent ourselves, and we don't want to put our children in the middle or the center of our conflict. That is the goal, is to keep our children out of our relationship issues so we can call. And I know that was hard for me. We could not talk because everything that was said was either interpreted as a personal thing. It was interpreted as an offense, or it became all about me or him. And that's the way our communication was in the beginning, that we could not talk on the phone for a long time. And I understand for me why that was. I understand, I think for both of us, is because I came from a very codependent relationship, and it was always what he said went, and I never questioned, or I never really pushed my own agenda, or I was content with leaving things be, because I was the nice girl, or the girl who didn't want to ruffle any feathers, or the girl who didn't want to say no, right? People pleasing was real big for me. So now that I'm expressing and saying what it is I want and what it is I feel, my opinion about the children, he's not used to my dynamics and the new me now, and I'm not sure of myself either, because this is a new pattern for me, and I wasn't sure whether I am able to compromise or hear him at this point, what he has to say, because I want to make sure that I'm not oppressing my own self by just agreeing, right? That was hard. That was really hard for me to go through, from a place of codependency to completely feeling independent, free thinking, making decisions on my own, but doing it in the right way, not doing it in a way where I'm just agreeing to keep the peace. So and other things that can happen if we use our children to convey messages is maybe they understand it incorrectly, and then they explain it incorrectly, and that is a miscommunication, and then your ex can take it incorrectly, so it causes a lot of communication problems and big problems. And if your children give you a message from your parent, just listen, just hear it out, because remember, the child is the innocent one in this situation. We can't get upset or angry and then take it out on the child, because the child is caught in the middle just doing as he's told, right? So don't blow up at them. Just wait and just listen and just take it in and then, just say okay. And then when you're alone, when you've calmed down a little bit, when you're thinking clearly and you know what you want to convey, get into that place where what you want to convey. We're not talking about any personal attacks here. Be firm, but be clear, and make sure your children are not around, so they don't hear what you're saying. And ask yourself, whatever you're going to be saying to your ex, how will it affect your child? How will your talk here affect your child? And conduct yourself in a manner that keeping your child the focal point of every single discussion that you have with your ex. Not like a lecture. Oh, you did this. Not about blame and lecture. Hey, our child came and told me this. It would be best if we can let's talk about this together on our own, and not involve the children, right? And there's a way to really, I recognize if you're feeling resentment or bitterness towards what is happening here, because if that it is the case, then you might just want to email, right? Email worked the best for me, and it still does. And the goal is to establish conflict-free communication. So see what type works best for you. And we still like email. It's very difficult for us to talk because it turns into shouting matches, and it turns into anger, aggression, just, spewing hatred, really. And I don't want to be involved in that, and I don't want to hear it. So email is the best thing for me. And I think that allows you to communicate, but even in email, not long-winded emails, but just very business-like, and learn to be also open and flexible with schedules. Kids, they really feel it when they have to listen to their parents argue about visitation schedules in front of them. Even if the court is saying, no, this is the schedule that you follow, remember that if the parent wants to take the child somewhere and it's not directly infringing on plans that you already have, what do you lose by letting your child go? With their other parent, to enjoy, to connect, to build a bond and relationship. What do you lose if you don't have something that's already scheduled, right? It's really just a matter of putting the ego aside and not letting it get in the way of who gets their way. So, and it'll benefit your child. And one day when they grow up, they will thank you for it. They will remember that, the freedom that you allowed for them to have with the relationship with the other parent. And, anything you hear from your child about your ex, don't jump to conclusions and make assumptions. If you're not sure, ask. And remember also that not to jump on the bandwagon when your children are maybe putting their father down, or they're saying he did this and he did that. They're just expressing their feelings, and that's fine. Let them have it. But don't jump on the bandwagon and say, oh yeah, he's horrible, or he's awful, he's such a, all the labels that you want to call him. But remain neutral, because your children are going to need that. They may be doing the same thing about you over there. And we want to be able to model for our children what the appropriate response is, right? And the research also shows if you can learn to, that your child can learn to resent you if you are jumping on the bandwagon to diminish or disrespect their other parent, especially when, they're feeling maybe hurt or angry for a moment, but they love their other parent. So don't enable them to build that hatred or animosity with the other parent. Another big thing is to recognize that co-parenting, communicating, and interacting with your child's ex is going to challenge you. It's going to push you to your limits. And the reason for flexibility and making accommodations with your ex in decisions concerning your child is not because your ex wants it this way or that way, but it's really for the needs of your children. So remembering to always rise above and put your child's needs first, rather than who's right or who's wrong or who's winning or who's losing. It's not an all or nothing, and it's not a black and white. So like I mentioned, we were really good with emails, and we still are. And that was, I would say, the only thing that we are really good at. But really, like I mentioned earlier before, me changing as an individual, me establishing new boundaries and limits for myself, was really helpful, because I got to really understand and know myself and take care of myself, my emotional health, and my own resiliency. But that is not what my ex knew about me. He didn't know this new person. He never knew this new person. And so when you start having new limits and new boundaries, even though we're no longer married, we're still in some type of a communication and relationship, because we're sharing children and taking care of them and raising them. So for him, it was very different, because he was always in control, and he needs to be always in control. Well, he's no longer controlling me or my life, and I have no control over him or his life, right? And even the time he spends with the children, and vice versa. So that can get really messy, meaning, like, when people are feeling insecure and not able to control the situation, it gets messy. They react really defensively, because they feel like they have to hold on and clamp on even more tighter. And look, in my situation, we have very different views in terms of philosophies of how we live our life and our lifestyle, how and how we raise our children. So for my children, they have very different scenarios in both households, where, in our home, it's very much respecting the other person, being aware of what you're putting out, and living a lifestyle that's going to be pleasing to Allah, having a connection to Allah, and living a lifestyle like a Muslim. And in their dad's home, it's not really like that. It's more of do whatever makes you happy. Do the right thing, yes, but you have to make yourself happy regardless of whether they're conscious about what is pleasing to Allah or not. So they are getting mixed messages, but at the same time, children, you want to send them the right message in a way that's kind and respectful, because at the end of the day, they are going to have to become independent, free thinkers. And it's not about controlling them this way or that way. It's really giving them the information and giving them the ability to be able to choose independently, to choose the right thing. And in order to do that, the number one thing that's important is them having their own relationship with Allah, and allowing them to let Allah's guidance in, and Allah will guide them. So the last thing I really want to share is redefining your relationship with your ex as a business partnership, with the common goal being your child as the business, right? In a business partnership, we respect and work around each other's strengths and really overlook weaknesses. Think of your child's ex exclusively as your child's father and not as your ex-spouse. Yes, you have a whole history together, and there's hurt and pain that comes with that relationship that has built up, and you're no longer together. But it has nothing to do with your children, has nothing at all, does not involve them. Because to the child, they love their parent regardless of what has happened. Even when we're rough to our children, when we're yelling at our children, or we're aggressive with them, we get upset, we snap, we lose it, as we all do. They still come back to us. They still want to be close to us, right? It's the same thing with the child's other parent. So don't bring your ex into the interactions that you have with your children, in connecting with them in your own home. Whether you're interacting with them or talking to them. Don't bring in, oh, well, it's not fair that, he gets to do this, and this with my children. And now that they're in my home, I'm not going to allow them to go and do this with him because it's my turn or it's my time. Yes, it is your time. And you each have to be respectful of the time that you have together. But at the same time, what do you really have to lose? Why are you saying no if you can say yes? It's not about being oppressed or suppressed. And I had to go through that and understand that for myself. What do I really lose? And what do I gain? And who is gaining? Child is gaining, right? So your marriage may be over, but being a parent is not over. So doing what is best for your kids is your most important priority. So the first step to being a mature, responsible co-parent is always to put your children's needs ahead of yours. And I remember, just something simple as we have a lot of money issues and money stories going on in our family, for both me and my ex, and individually. Money is also a tool that's used for control and manipulation. So our own patterns of how we respond to money and in terms of child support and what it covers, a lot of times people have the mentality that, oh, I'm paying you, so you should take care of everything. Well, it's both parents' responsibility, right? And when you do get child support, it is to cover the expenses when the children are with you, not in general, right? And you get to decide as the adult what those expenses are for the children. You're talking about rent, you're talking about utilities, you're talking about food, you're talking about clothes, you're talking about activities, schooling, whatever that is, necessities, haircuts, clothes, health care, whatever that is. You as a parent are deciding that. No one gets to dictate or tell you what to do, and there can come up a lot of conflict in that. And parents can very easily say, well, I give your mom all this money, she should be buying you this, this, and this. And if the child comes to you, and tells you those things, do you communicate that with the child? Do you have the conversation with the child? Well, no, this is not the case. No, you say, okay, well, I'll handle it with your dad. I will take care of it. And your child might not even tell you that dad told you, but where else does a child get this stuff? So you can talk to the children and just listen to them. You can have a greater understanding of what they're going through and what is going on through their mind and what they're exposed to just by listening to them and asking them non-threatening, non-defensive questions. Such as, okay, so you think that the money that I get from your father should cover all of these expenses. And a lot of times, and you'll just listen to what they have to say. There's no right or wrong answer from them because this is not about them. And unfortunately, they get dragged into the middle. But listen to what they have to say. It'll give you an idea of their mindset and how maybe they're being trained. And a lot of times kids in this situation will feel afraid to get their needs met, even if they're with one parent most of the time. And they'll want to get everything met with the minimal time that they're with, maybe a parent that they only see like once or twice a month. And it's because of how they're afraid. They're afraid to ask, or they're afraid that if they do get their needs met while they're with the other parent, that parent will get mad or get upset, because they are so perceptive in picking up our feelings of how we are managing our own feelings about what's going on in our life. So my purpose here really to share all this is for you to become aware of your own feelings, how you're responding, and your children's experiences and how they're responding. So for today, I really want you to think about your communication with your ex. What is it like? How do you communicate? Is it through email? Is it through phone? Is it a one-on-one? Is it productive? Do you advise him? Or do you give him suggestions? Or do you just focus on the solution at hand, like, coming to a solution, very business oriented? And are you able to take yourself out of the picture when you're communicating with your ex about your children? Just children and the problem, coming to a solution. Children, problem, solution. Not your opinions. You can make suggestions. What about this, and this? How do you feel about this, and this? And leave the floor open to dialogue and discussion, and hear him. And don't feel like, I went through this for a really long time in terms of whatever he said, I felt like it was just about me, him trying to control me. So it would get lost in what is best for the children. So take yourself out of it and see, can you take yourself out of the equation when communicating with your ex about your children? So that was the goal for today, and that was my message for today, is communication directly with dad. And I just want to remind you that we next week I'm preparing a masterclass in navigating the troubled waters of parenting through divorce, because children are experiencing big things, they're having big feelings, and they are going to respond in a way that may not make sense. And so we're going to take a deep dive into how to understand how your child is coping with a divorce by his or her behavior. So stay tuned to that, and I can't wait to hear your comments and your reflections from the questions today. Assalamu alaikum, Shabana. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Any other questions? I will take a look at later on when I look back into the comments in the group, and I'll be here for you. Shabana, if you have any questions or if this brought anything up for you, let me know in the comments, post them, and I will answer it. But thank you for being here with me live, and I'm looking forward to your answers. And tomorrow is going to be day 5. We're going to be talking about transitions back and forth to different homes. All right, guys, take care. Talk to you soon. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.